What is going on, everybody? We are back once again with another edition of Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. It is Tuesday, December 12th, and I am stoked to be here. We are going to break down WWE's Monday Night Raw, and I have a stacked panel for the first of the two shows that I'll be hosting today. If you do check out this one, feel free to please also check out Off the Air tonight, immediately following NXT. That'd be delightful. And speaking of that, let me introduce first from the DMV, the Tuesday Night Delight, as I like to call him. And we got him early on Tuesday afternoon. Shad, Huda, how you feeling, Shad?
I'm doing good, bro. I am here to talk a lot of WWE from the main roster to NXT. Y'all gonna be talking it with me, so let's get into it.
Absolutely stoked to have you as usual, Shad. And then let's head just a little bit south of that to Florida right now. Our resident New Jersey, New Yorker, Bret Sternberg. Good to have you once again this week. How are you feeling on this fine Tuesday afternoon?
Everything's going great. I'm excited to finally talk about WWE again, which is nice. So I'm happy to be here.
Absolutely, dude. Stoked to have you as usual. And last but certainly not least, let's go out to Philly. We've got the head of opinions for Wrestling Republic, Anthony Ricciardi. I get the name right every time now. How are you feeling, my friend, on this fine Tuesday afternoon-ish for you? I guess it's almost
Yeah,
evening.
yeah, 4:30. Doing all right. Pretty decent Raw last night. One of the better ones in a while. So I'm very excited to talk about the show.
100%. It was a fun Raw, and not only that, it was an interesting Raw. It was one of those ones that felt different than even, Raw's built some momentum in the last few months, right? And it felt different than even that. This felt in some ways like a bit of a turning point. Let's get right into our first segment. Let's talk about the CM Punk and Seth Rollins promo. This is what we all wanted. This isn't the main event, but it's basically the main event. I mean, Anthony, I'm going to ask you first. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, how fun was this promo? And just break the whole thing down for me, because this rivalry is what we've all been asking for since that initial first chord hit of Cult of Personality, and Seth Rollins reacted the way he did.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say is they aired a promo package for Punk before the decision, which really showed again why WWE's unmatched with the production stuff with the videos. Punk's promo I really enjoyed. I thought it told the story for people that maybe either weren't fans back then or needed a refresher course or something to the whole history that he has in Cleveland. And that's the building that he quit in 10 years ago. So I thought that was really well done. The interaction with Seth, the initial stare down for me reminded me a lot of Hogan Rock when they did the stare down because the crowd was divided. They're singing Seth's song, they're chanting CM Punk. I thought that was really well done. Seth's cutting his promo on Punk, very reminiscent of when Hangman cut it in AEW, although this time, presumably, everyone stayed on script. I thought it was very well done. They didn't have to say a lot. They didn't have to do a lot. Seth throwing in the dig of going, this is your last chance. We all know it. That was just a nice little dig. And Punk not firing back was probably a smart move because, again, you're building anticipation for Mania. You don't want to unload all the barrels this early. But Punk saying, this is your only time you're going to disrespect me like this. I thought they did a really nice job, and it's the anticipation. Punk's probably winning the Rumble at this point. Either way, he's going to face Seth at Mania. I think that's pretty much a foregone conclusion at this point, unless they throw a curveball and it's Austin and Punk. But I really think it's Seth and Punk. And if you're looking at just projected main events, Seth, Punk night 1, Cody, Roman night 2, that's really solid for the biggest WrestleMania of all time, the 40th.
Absolutely. I really like where you went there too with the idea of it's got to get to Mania. And I love the comparison you made between The Rock and Hogan's stare down and that stare down last night. The way the crowd was divided, absolutely. I was electrified. Dutch, pun intended, when it comes to the Rock reference there. We got a few comments here. One from our good friend Bobby Petito. Hello, guys. What's going on, Bobby? Good to have you as always. And then another one from our other good friend, Numero One Superfly. What is up? Hello. Good to have you as always. And then we have another two comments from the same two. Numero One Superfly with that promo between Seth and CM Punk was fire. I think we all agree on that one. Anthony, you broke that down delightfully. And then Bobby Petito with I could see CM Punk and Cody Rhodes being the final two for the Royal Rumble match. That's actually an interesting idea because that elimination, maybe, I mean, hey, we haven't started thinking about SummerSlam yet, but I don't know, right? That might be something there. That could be quite interesting. Bret, your thoughts though on CM Punk and Rollins last night and the direction of this rivalry as a whole?
Honestly, I loved what they did last night because I was one of the suckers who thought that it wasn't a work. So I definitely was all honed in on Seth because I didn't know how he was going to come off after the SmackDown promo that CM Punk put out about Seth and not being the man of his own family and stuff like that. Also, we're featuring now Bernie. Yeah, so I definitely think that the promo itself was amazing. I didn't think that I was going to hear Seth say some of the stuff that he didn't. I also didn't think I was going to hear Punk take some of the stuff that he'd said. It looked like Punk wanted to fire back at him really, 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 really bad and was like holding on for dear might. But at the same time, we're going to see how this plays out. They are working together now. So let's see how this goes. It's fun.
It is fun. It's interesting too. And I love that you said that because, you know, it was hard to deny that it did. While I did at the time believe it was work-ish, work adjacent, I would say.
Blurring the lines.
It is hard to deny it didn't look like a shoot, right? And he was visibly upset. You know, there's the debate about it was Michael Cole holding him back. Like, really? That was kind of like, yeah. You did say that, Bret. That's why I was giving you credit for that, right?
Yeah,
that one. And there's multiple, you know, things out there, but I'm just glad that this was finally kind of paid off, and it pretty clearly looks like CM Punk is going to be signing with Raw, which to me makes the most sense.
Well, he did at the end of the show last night, right?
Right.
Yeah, before
Exactly. I mean, it's official, I guess, right? Technically. You never know with Punk though. He might show up wherever. It's CM Punk. Doesn't that dude do whatever he wants, right? Isn't that kind of half the point? I don't know. Shad, I want to get your thoughts though on Punk and Rollins. Do you think this is paid off at Mania? Do you think this is paid off at the Rumble? Do you think this is something that we'll see more interactions than this before either of those major events?
Nah, man, it's gonna happen on a random Raw in Wichita, Kansas for sure. We are officially into the WrestleMania season, and this is the first step to what will be a night one, I would assume, main event. And I kudos to WWE to just start it off and get it here for us right out the gate. I mean, this is something that's fresh in our mind. We saw how Seth's reaction was at the War Games event, the Survivor Series, and the thing about it is there probably is a bit of animosity. There probably is a bit of, I don't want to say hatred, but dislike on both parties amongst these guys. But these guys are professionals, man, and they are going to take this opportunity and work together because they know this is going to draw a lot of viewers going in, because that reality of it makes us as viewers and fans way more intrigued. I thought the promo from Punk initially, signing with Raw was great. I think he's showing a lot of just like sincere happiness. I know people try to question it off that first night, but I see the smile in his face. I see his interactions with other wrestlers in the backstage and kind of making jokes and stuff. He made a joke with Kofi Kingston, the Jamaican me crazy line, right? Like you can tell that he definitely got a point to prove coming back to WWE, and he wants to make it a little bit different this time around. But man, when Seth's music hit last night, I got like goosebumps, man. I was like, oh, we're about to really start this off. And like Anthony's point, that glare, like them just looking at each other with the crowd erupting, making so much noise, man. It felt like you're watching like a boxing face off or a UFC face off of a main event money fight. And it had me just excited for that. And then Seth, man, he really got a lot of stuff that he's mirrored in interviews and what he said publicly into this promo work, man. And him kind of playing that tweener role. I think both of them aren't, set baby faces or set heels in this. Them just kind of being their natural selves, telling that he wants to protect the house he's built this WWE while he's been gone brick by brick. And basically telling him like, hey man, you left, you've showed that you didn't want to be here, you can't call this your home. Like, and then Punk's reaction back, I thought it was incredible. And it's one of those things that I'm just gonna be super excited for. And I think it is gonna have to be a WrestleMania match. Punk either winning the Rumble, which I think would probably be the case, and then doing it for night one. I think that's where we're gonna go with this.
To add to that really quick before you go in,
Go ahead.
Clark, that was the first time last night I've ever seen Rollins chants go silent and Punk get overshadowed. Like you hear CM Punk chants overshadowing the Rollins singing. That was the first time that's ever happened, in my opinion.
I loved it felt incredibly divided. And I agree with you, but it felt like it ebbed and flowed. And I think the key to it is if you really break down the two's careers, Punk is older, right? And obviously 7 years away, he has a unique story to almost any other professional wrestler, right? But there's a lot of similarities, both athletically and style and presentation, attitude, whether in the ring or out of the ring, speak your mind, all of that. That is where I think the brilliance lies in all of this. It's even deeper than just the simplicity of he's upset about what Punk said when they were outside the company. Punk's upset about what Rollins, it's deeper than that. And what's so cool about this is it divides the audience in a way. And Shad made an amazing point about like an MMA fight or a boxing match, where a portion of the audience is going to be rooting for one of the two wholeheartedly, like team sports almost.
Mhm.
And there is a place for that in pro wrestling in my eyes. And there's a brilliance to that. And this touches on that in a way, and it's going to pull on. I don't doubt that between now and whenever this does get paid off, we have moments where fans flip sides almost assuredly. And that is something that's so hard to accomplish. It's doable. I mean, you look at Austin Rock, WrestleMania 17. Yes, the Austin turned heel and whatnot. But there's a lot of people already rooting for The Rock. And that there's a lot of reason that they did pull the trigger on something that was looked upon negatively in hindsight. But if you look back at what the cards that were dealt, it kind of makes sense on paper. And this is one where, if done properly in today's day and age, given the rest of combat sports, I think the sky's kind of the limit with these two.
Yeah. There were just a couple things that I noticed. Punk apologized to the fans,
right,
that were in Cleveland that he walked out on, which reminded me of what Austin did when Austin came back after he walked out on the company. The other thing that I noticed, I've never seen Punk do this before, But when he came out, he stopped, he turned around, and he looked at the Tron. And it made me think of what he said at Deadline at backstage. There was an interview with him and Cora Jade, and he goes, "I am so used to going 100 miles an hour, and I've never took the time to stand back and appreciate what this all is." And it really looked like he was appreciating the fact that like his name's back on the Tron, he's back home essentially.
Yeah.
What you were saying, Clark, about the term, I think it could be interesting. If going into it, Punk's the babyface and Seth's the heel, or if they divide, again, they're going into Philly, which is a Punk territory other than Chicago.
Yeah.
Could we be getting the Hogan Rock scenario where the audience flips it?
And even either, it could be either direction. Honest to goodness, because knowing Philly, if they get sick of Punk, they'll turn on him faster than Chicago would.
Yeah,
right?
they're
To,
rooting for
even
both.
to
No,
further
that's
your
what I'm
point,
saying. Like it's a
it could
passion.
go either direction. To
Yeah.
your point, I love that comparison and
Well-
totally agree. And I think that an environment like that to set up for on that stage, that match to happen is the way we go about this. But let's move on. Let's talk about Drew McIntyre and Jey Uso, both two potential world title competitors, or I mean contenders,
Mhm.
going
Yeet.
after each other. Yeet, there you go. Jey Uso looks good every week, but he's been taking a lot of losses, and he took another one last night with a Claymore to the dome. 1-2-3 ball game, clean in the middle of the ring. Anthony, what were your thoughts on McIntyre, Jey Uso, and are either of these two the next challenger for Rollins' belt ahead of Punk?
I think it was a hard-hitting opener to a really, like I said, a really good Raw. I like the direction they're going with the heel McIntyre. Him being bitter and angry, being screwed over by the bloodline, and Jay's tied to that, obviously, because he's on Raw. And just the overall, you think about it, like there's a bitterness there because he had 2 world title reigns, but it was during the pandemic with no fans. And the one chance that he had to get that in his, at Clash didn't happen because of the bloodline. So it makes sense. I like the heel run. I think him going against Rollins is a possibility because Rollins obviously needs somebody to bide his time until he gets Punk at Mania. So it does make sense. I don't think Jay's going to be the one to do it. But then I don't think this is the end of the Jey McIntyre thing either. I think this probably either leads to either a rematch at the day 1 Raw, or maybe that's at the Rumble. I don't know where Drew's going to fall in this, but I could also see Drew, if Punk somehow takes the belt, or Seth, either one retains, I could see him being the challenger after Mania, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because at that point, he should be done with Jey.
Yeah, the Jey Uso Drew McIntyre rivalry is really interesting to me because is it an avenue to the world title picture on Raw, or is it an avenue to another Drew McIntyre Roman Reigns rivalry? That is actually something that, if you really think about it, like given the basis, like it could kind of be either one. And that would be actually my only complaint is I want to know what the real direction is beyond.
Well, it'd be interesting because he's facing Jey, and Jey's a face.
Right.
When he faces Roman, presumably it's probably after Roman turns as a face, possibly SummerSlam. I'm just speculating here.
That
would make sense. Yeah, because you figure Roman's probably going to take time off after Mania, in theory.
You would assume, absolutely. Yeah. And we got a couple comments here. We got one here from Cool Gamer, which is hello everybody. What's going on, Cool Gamer? Good to have you as always. Thank you for tuning in. And then Bobby Petito with I'm thinking we could see Jey Uso in the Royal Rumble match. I don't know if you meant in the Royal Rumble match or win the Royal Rumble match on that, Bobby. I definitely think he's going to be a competitor in the Royal Rumble match. I don't actually think this is the year to pull the trigger on Jey winning the Rumble. Now maybe a Final Four, a long run. something, to continue building upon. I don't mind, but I wouldn't actually have him in my handful of picks that I could, be excited to win this year's Rumble. And then number one Superfly, I really liked how even though Drew took out Sammy, he had a justified babyface reason why, even though we, the fans, saw it as a heel move. That is actually an excellent point. It's true. He has justified his reasoning for almost everything he's done as a heel in a unique way that we do not often see heels do.
Well, bad guys never view themselves as bad guys.
It's true.
They always have a reason, and to them, it makes sense. Yes.
I completely agree, Anthony, but the one thing I would say is, honestly, if you do think about it, you can kind of relate to.
You can relate to
in
it.
a way
yes,
that,
absolutely.
That's the difference there, which is a wild thing. But with that, let's talk about not the men, but the man, Becky Lynch and Nia Jax, the GOAT, as Shad likes to say. What a fun match, because it brings up history. We're thinking about the old broken nose. We're thinking about all of that. I mean, Nia created the man character, if you really think about it, with that one botched shot right across the bridge of the nose. And we had it on Monday Night Raw last night with the GOAT. Shad, break down the whole match for me. Let me know what you thought about it.
No, I mean, the promo segment between them. I mean, let's keep it real. It's kind of similar to what we saw with Cody, not Cody, with Seth and Punk in a way, where they have a history and they were not shy of mentioning stuff that happened within the history, as well as stuff that we just kind of know about each wrestler. Let's think about it like this. Becky Lynch yesterday had two major quotes. The first one saying, "You are the most dangerous woman on this roster," implying that you are dangerous because all you do is hurt competitors. Like, we know her history of Nia working kind of rough, injuring people in the past, including injuring Becky. I thought that was great. I love that Nia Jax kind of rebutted it with the whole aspect of, I made the man. If I didn't break your nose by accident, you would have never became that. Imagine if I got an opportunity to break your nose purposeful. And I thought that was great. And of course, my favorite line of the entire night, Becky said, saying that, what did she say about her? She made an ACO where she said, that you're so unlikable, your knees wouldn't even stand up for you, uh, alluding to her ACL injury and whatnot. So I thought Becky really tapped into that bag that we've seen from her, because I mentioned it here, and I always say it. I feel like she's like the greatest woman on the mic. Like, I don't think there's a women's wrestler in the history of professional wrestling that can match Becky Lynch on the mic. I think she's so quick-witted. She's got so much passion within her promos, and she's just effortlessly cool. Like, she's the man for this very reason. And we've talked about it a lot on NXT while she was the NXT Women's Champ. I definitely think that Becky Lynch this past calendar year has been the most important women's wrestler in professional wrestling. I think she's the women's wrestler of the year. I think she has done an excellent job making any feud with any superstar mean something, and it's benefited every competitor that she's gone against. Because let's be real, she's been feuding with a lot of people this past year that are below her pay grade. She's gone against young competitors on NXT. She's gone against Xia Li. She's gone against Nia Jax now, who's a returning superstar. She's being very selfless. She's had the opportunity to be Becky Two Belt. She had the opportunity to be a champ last year. Had great feuds with Bianca, Liv. This year, she's giving back and showing that she's very selfless. And I feel like it's not being valued by the fans as much as it should be. I know a lot of people like to credit the great work that Athena's doing, the great work that Io Sky is doing, Rhea Ripley even, but I don't think anybody comes close to what Becky Lynch has done this calendar year. And I really hope that we get an opportunity to let her have another dominant reign sometime next year, because she's more than deserving of what she's done.
100%. And I love what you said there about Becky working everybody, especially at this stage of her career, and given how big over she's always been, and how big of a talent she is, to go down and work NXT, to work the programs that she's been able to work and be involved in, is super, super impressive. We got an awesome question here from number one Superfly, which is, should they do Becky versus Nia on Raw, or would you prefer they do their match at the Royal Rumble while both compete in the Rumble? I would say I would prefer either the rivalry is renewed in the Rumble, or at main events of Raw in some kind of like actual payoff to set up for one of the two's role at the Rumble, if that makes sense. So some kind of whether it's an Extreme Rules or a Falls Count Anywhere, something unique,
Yeah.
given the history between the two. If it were to be a Raw main event, I wouldn't have an issue with that. Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I would have it as a main event on the Raw. I think Becky needs to be a premier player on the Rumble and possibly win the Rumble. I think we need to start after this feud with Nia is done, which I think is good. I think it's a nice little feud during this December time season going into the Rumble as letting wrestlers kind of do stuff. But we got to start positioning her and Rhea for Mania because that's the money match that we got to see.
I could see them doing it the day one Raw because I think they're trying to build that as a like almost I guess a mini pay-per-view in between now and the Rumble.
Yeah, because day one was a pay per view last year.
Yes.
They're just exactly. So they're just putting it on the Raw now. Yeah, I can see that.
Absolutely. And we've got a comment here from Bobby Petito, which is Becky Lynch did have a great match against Tiffany Stratton as well. And I agree, Bobby. Like, I mean, Shad mentioned earlier, like the work that she put in on NXT.
The Lyra match was great too.
Okay, with that though, let's move on to our next topic, which is DIY, good old do it yourself. Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa teaming with The Miz in a 6-man affair against Imperium. That's Gunther and both of his lackeys. We've got a comment here from our friend Dark Angel 2567, which is yo, and then we got one more, which is who are you talking about now? That is who we are talking
on Twitch, by the way, too.
on Twitch. Shout out Twitch. That is who we were talking about now. Bret, interesting match here. We had The Miz picking up the victory with the skull crushing finale. Is The Miz not done with Gunther? What's going on here?
So,
what was the point of this match? Let me know what you think.
Yeah, I do believe that they're at the point where they need to move Gunther up in the rankings, and it's his time. He's paid his dues. I feel like move him up to the heavyweight conversation, or maybe in a bigger titled conversation like we were talking about in other weeks or other shows. But I do think that they're positioning themselves now. And I'm going to take a wild shot at this, but I think that The Miz is going to be the one to take the title off Gunther. And I'm saying that because of all the work that The Miz has done for this company and him giving back. I think they're going to give back to him in a sense, because him winning over Gunther is a huge defeat. Yes, Gunther already has the record, so it doesn't matter if he drops it now to move up in a sense. So I think that that's the reason why they were in the match together. Obviously, yeah, it was like a Cleveland homecoming type of deal, or Ohio homecoming. Where's Ciampa from? Does anyone know?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
I want to say Wisconsin, but I could be wrong.
I believe he is a Wisconsin guy.
Okay, well, I know Gargano and The Miz are from Ohio, so I know.
Yeah, he's from Milwaukee. Yeah.
Okay.
Milwaukee.
All right. So I know it was a big deal for like a homecoming for The Miz, and I know and Gargano maybe, but more for The Miz because he seemed more excited out there and to do it in front of his home crowd in a sense. Because I feel like that last time it was hijacked by Logan Paul, or in a sense. So he was having fun with it, and this is the first time I've also seen The Miz really like kind of put in the work to put over himself as the top man. Yeah, he's on other shows. He's done that to put someone else over as the top man. Now he's doing it for himself. And honestly, last night, I do think it's the beginning of the fall, not the fall of Imperium, but the fall of Gunther's reign.
I agree too, and I don't necessarily think it needs to be Miz to take the title off of him, but I think you're starting to see cracks in the system in a way that they haven't shown us in a long time. I actually think that's a really good point, Brett. And I didn't think of it that way last night because I was a little bit like with this one, I don't want to say confused, but like, didn't we see Ms. Gunther? You know what I mean? But it really was more about Imperium in my eyes in hindsight, especially after hearing what you had to say, than it was about the Miz and Gunther specifically. With that, though, let's move on to our main event topic
Hold
of
up.
the
Can
evening.
I say one thing though?
Yes, of course you can.
DIY has like the worst theme song in all of wrestling.
It's
That's
bad. I know it's bad. I'm sorry, Kobe.
Besides
That
Jey
Shad said
Uso.
that, but I'm sorry, Kobe. All love, but it's not good. It's not
Hot
good.
take.
It's not good.
Both of those are trash. But yeah, let's go ahead.
It's not good. The whole thing's not good. Now, well, yeah, I was going to say. So, what do you want to talk about? Sorry, I had to. We've got the guy who got his face spit in, Cody, the American Nightmare Rhodes, against the Spitter, Nakamura, Shinsuke Nakamura, last night, and we had a match. We had a match that ends via disqualification. This one was funky to me. I really, really, really was excited to see the two wrestle and thought they delivered on everything. But like, I mean, like, where are they going from here? Because if we're going to finish the story, we just started a new one.
I agree with you there.
We just started a dang new one. Shad, I'm going to toss it to you out of the gates. Break it down for me. What do you think?
Patience is a virtue, my friend. I just mentioned it earlier with Becky and Nia. These are just placement feuds for a stopgap time till we get to the Royal Rumble season officially. Obviously, we know Cody's gonna be a participant for there, so we'll have to wait and see what that is. But I don't mind it, and I say I don't mind it is it's not like a feud that I'm like up in arms about. I feel that Shinsuke has rejuvenated a little bit as a character. I am enjoying it. I love the anime vignette, by the way. That thing was pretty badass. I can't lie. But
Killing it with that.
it's one of those things where it's like it works for me because I feel like if anybody can work these like weird, like over dramatic feuds, it's Mr. Cody Rhodes. Like this is what he lives for and whatnot. So normally, I'll be real with you. I think the whole Miss thing is kind of a little overplayed with a lot of Japanese wrestlers obviously paying to homage to what Great Muta does, but like we've seen the whole storyline for Asuka and Bianca been solely about the Miss. This one a little bit more different because we have heard a little bit of context with Shinsuke talking about I never got to finish my story, this, that, and the third. I would like for that to be the thing, but I will say, man, the Miss spot was pretty crazy because that was a lot of mist in that man's face. Like he
It
spit
was.
like a water bottle full of like fruit punch in that man's face. Like it looked crazy. So all in all, it was solid. I think they're probably gonna build up to this burn off match with them at this day one Raw as well. But I mean, it was solid. It wasn't bad. I'm not like not. I didn't hate it. I didn't like love it too much, but it was okay to me.
Yeah, I mean, here's the only complaint I had is I was unaware that the mist was a full DQ. I don't think I've ever seen actually the mist cause a disqualification.
Well, it's funny thing is because refs, if you, the ref saw him, spit the mist at him. If he
Yeah.
didn't see it and then he pinned him, and then after he pins, like, oh, how'd you get this random red stuff
Yeah,
in your face?
Yeah.
but then
It
we
would have
have
been
Asuka.
okay.
We have Asuka go ahead and do it every week, and it's black, and it's all over the
Yeah.
person's face. And what is the ref blind?
100%. Brett, yeah, no. What were your thoughts on this? That was my number one complaint. Give me your thoughts.
So yeah, first of all, I love this match, and yeah, Shad, I do understand where you're coming from with like who's gonna win and who's gonna lose, and like it's super dramatic. But they kind of have to do that right now with Shinsuke because of what the story that they're trying to tell with him. I do think the misting, like you said, is a little kind of overplayed and done up too much. But as a tribute, I like it. I do think Nakamura is probably one of the better ones at doing the mist because, like you said, it got all over the place. It was all over the hard cam. Not on the hard cam, but like throughout the scene of the hard cam. So it did a good job. And I do think Cody is the perfect person to go against this. I think that if this entire feud was to end on DQs also, I wouldn't be totally mad. But at the same time, it would be a little disappointing because I do want to see Shinsuke move up in the rankings. And you can't do that with someone like, unfortunately, Cody Rhodes when WrestleMania is coming up, because he's pretty much their top baby face and they're going to put all their chips on him pretty much in a sense. So it's just like a back and forth type of like pulling. But like Shad said, I love what they're doing with Shinsuke with the anime thing. I think it's making him more mysterious and more of a character. I just really feel like he needs like a powerful win and like a strong win now.
See, I completely agree. And this is my big problem with this feud because I really love Shinsuke Nakamura's work. And to you guys' point, the Mist last night, the original Mist, looked as good as any Mist. We can talk. We could talk all afternoon about, evening about, the Mist being overused, but Nakamura's looked amazing. Here's my problem: is Cody Rhodes is trying to finish the story in some way or another, and this just feels like another distraction block. It feels like a chapter that shouldn't be in the book.
Why? But he needs what is, if the end of the story is Roman and Roman's already in a storyline that's tied with Randy Orton and whatnot at the moment, what is Cody gonna do? Just twiddle his thumbs? Like
No.
we've complained about
if
him
we're
not
going to
doing
finish the
stuff.
story, I would assume that the hero, the babyface, would have a singular vision, especially 6 months out from the biggest event possible, the only chance he's got at a rematch, the Royal Rumble 2. Not just the Royal Rumble, but WrestleMania, more importantly, the spot he wants to get to. An absolute direct laser focus on who he wants to beat and why he wants to do it. Tell me the dang story. That was my complaint last year, and that's why I thought Roman Reigns went over. And I do not want a repeat performance of that. I do not want a rushed, it's Cody and Roman again, all of a sudden, because you saw it last year. Tell us more. Actually finish the story. You have to tell the story to finish it. And that's where I would go with that one, Shad.
But we can get to that story being built, but
I don't know.
you're acting like you're acting like Mania is like tomorrow. Like we got some.
Yeah, but Royal Rumble's coming right up around the corner, and also
April
I don't
1st,
think
man.
Shinsuke's a peg that you put in the way of anyone in that direction.
This could be an 8-week feud.
Shinsuke's I don't think this is going to be an 8-week feud. I think this is going to be a match that gets blown off at this day one Monday Night Raw.
That would be great. I wouldn't have an issue with that. That would actually be, to me, the route that I would go personally. I do think, though, that we need Cody pointing his finger directly at Roman Reigns sooner rather than later, because that was my biggest issue with last year's build. Personally, that's just where I feel like the only issue lies with the Cody story. Is if we're gonna finish it, tell the whole thing.
I also want him to say his opening line in his theme song straight to Roman's face.
That would be awesome. Actually, that to me is the pinnacle of the promos. Anthony, I obviously have to toss this to you. I know you're a huge Cody Rhodes fan and a huge fan of the history of the business too. What were your thoughts on not only last night's match, but his rivalry with Nakamura and how it leads us into Mania season?
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with the build last year. I know it was rushed because of the Rumble, but you need placeholders for this. Roman's not there. They're on separate brands. And as far as Cody having one direction, Nakamura picked the fight with Cody. Cody didn't seek out Nakamura. It makes sense. It's a roadblock on his path to Mania. It makes sense. I do agree with Shad. I think it's going to get paid off at day one. It is interesting that now Cody is in a second feud with somebody in his career that's using Mist. He left AEW with Malachi with the Mist. Now he's getting misted by Nakamura.
That's a good point.
I think it's an interesting feud. But again, it's a placeholder for Cody to get to Mania. It's very difficult when Roman's not there. It's going to have that same problem, but the story is there. The story is an 8-year-old Cody made a vow to win the title that his father was never able to win. I don't see that being complicated. It's simple. It's understandable. I don't see an issue with it. Them dragging out another year, him going through the Brock trials. I think that adds to Cody because he went through Brock. Brock showed him respect, which Brock's never done. No one's ever seen Brock raise somebody's hand after a match. Not Roman, not nobody. Cody's the only guy he's done that for. And I think that's it. It's leaning to Mania. You got to do a placeholder. I don't know what happens to Nakamura after this, though. Like, I don't know who he feuds with at this point. I think Cody was a good choice, but he ain't going to beat him. So I'm not sure who they're going to have him face. That's the problem. What do you do with Nakamura after this? Because I think they found a great gimmick for him. The subtitles and the videos and like the assassin type deal. I think that works. But what are you doing with him? Like, are you just using him as a placeholder? Do you have faith in him? Are you going to push a title on him at some point? What are you going to do with Nakamura? I think Cody's future, we have an idea where that's going. We have no clue what's going to happen with Nakamura once he's done with Cody or once Cody's done with him.
Yeah, I hear where you're coming from, especially on the Nakamura side, and I do understand where you're coming from on a lot of the points you made. My only thing that I would like slightly disagree with is I would say actually the stone left unturned on the Cody finishing the story thing is, and it doesn't just come down to that the famous, there's more than one royal family line, right? But that Roman Reigns is the key figure standing in the way, because I think to build this to what it could really feel like before they even ring the bell,
Roman has to be there for it to
he does. But I do think there are ways now with videos and with, you know what I mean, with social media, with all of that, just to add that extra layer, that extra, like, it's not like almost, because this is what I would say too, right, Anthony? I'm not trying to cut you off on that one, just like, like if you look at Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and I love the Rocky series, right? And we've long laid out that.
You said it to me at 39. You and I had that conversation.
We've long laid out the plan. Rocky 2, remember, is when Apollo and Rocky really become rivals. Rocky's overcoming his own demons to gain the draw in Rocky 1, right? In Rocky 2, it's a rivalry. It's different. And then he goes and gets the win. Rocky 3, they become friends. I'm not saying that we have to see Rocky 3. I don't know that Cody and
I don't think it's get to 41. No.
But my point is, like, what the key to Rocky 2 in my eyes is that the rivalry truly develops.
Yes.
Right? It's very much underdog versus after the draw, it's competitor versus competitor. And that's what I'm hoping the WWE is able to deliver as far as the Cody storyline headed into Mania season in regards to Reigns. I want it to feel like a heavyweight title fight. We mentioned earlier boxing and MMA and stuff like that, right? That's what I think this thing needs to feel like in Philly for Cody's sake. This needs to feel like for the heavyweight championship of the world. These two don't like each other, and either they're going to finish the story or it's going to be stomped on. And that's something I think is achievable, but we can't be too distracted by what Cody has to get through along the way. That's my only concern with the Nakamura storyline.
Yeah, I think now, at least from my perspective, when we were at 39, I know the buildup was rushed. But when they came out to me, it felt like a big fight feel. Like when the entrances, I don't
It
know
did.
if you felt the same
It
way.
did. It did.
What I would like to see, because you have footage now of last year of them facing each other, and WWE does phenomenal production stuff. I don't know if they have the footage of it, but I know that they did wrestle. Dusty wrestled Roman's father.
Yes.
And if they can mix that footage of father and son, like they could really do this really well. And they could do stuff with this because now you've had a year. Cody's gone through so much to get to this point. I think you could do something with this.
It would be something special. I think that's
Yes.
a great idea. And this is a topic we could talk about forever.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in, though. That did bring us to the end of the show. Thumbs up, like, and subscribe. If you already haven't, please do. If you already have, thank you so much. We appreciate you guys more than anything, guys and girls, more than anything in the world. Thank you. If you're bored tonight, and even if you're not bored tonight, tune into Off the Air. It's me, Shad, and Drizzy. It's going to be an absolute blast. And we're going to be breaking down NXT. With that, though, otherwise, tune in tomorrow, noon Pacific, 3 Eastern, 8 in the UK, and that's 9 a.m. Hawaiian. Everybody have a great rest of their Tuesday, and thank you, as always, on behalf of the rest